Welcome back to Bot Thoughts by AmtocSoft, the podcast where we actually sit down and think about what we are building. I am Alex, and today Sam and I are going to talk about the single most embarrassing secret in LLM engineering right now. Most teams shipping LLM features to production have no idea if their system is getting better or worse week over week. Sam, I want to start with a blunt question. Are we measuring anything real?
Honestly, Alex, most teams are measuring vibes. And I say that as somebody who spent a year measuring vibes. The dirty truth is that the moment you put an LLM behind a user-facing product, your classical testing toolkit stops working. Unit tests assume deterministic output. LLMs are not deterministic. Integration tests assume your dependencies are stable. Your model provider is shipping silent updates on Tuesdays, and accuracy as a metric assumes you have ground truth labels. For a summarization endpoint, what is the ground truth? So what most teams do is they watch the Slack channel, and when 3 customers complain in a row, they call it a regression.
Okay, but devil's advocate, isn't that just how software has always worked? We ship, we watch the error logs, we fix. Why is LLM evaluation a special category of problem versus just, normal observability?
Great question, and here is where it gets interesting. There are 3 classes of failure that traditional observability cannot see. First, silent quality drift. Your P99 latency is fine, your error rate is 0, and your model is producing subtly worse answers. Nothing pages. Second, jailbreak regression. A prompt that was safely handled last month now returns something you would not want on a billboard. Third, and this is the worst one, benchmark overfitting. You tuned your prompt against a set of test cases, and the prompt is now perfect on those cases and broken on the long tail that actually matters. None of these show up in Datadog.
So that's the problem space. Now the landscape. Everybody I talk to mentions the same 3 tools: DeepEval, Arize Phoenix, and Promptfoo. Are they competitors? Are they complements? Pick one.
They are actually 3 different layers of the stack, which trips people up. DeepEval is the unit testing library. You write assertions. Things like, does this answer contain the citation it cites? Is the factual consistency score above 0.85? Is it answering in the voice we trained it on? You run it in CI. It feels like PyTest because it basically is PyTest. The DeepEval assertions plug into PyTest directly. It is great for regression testing your prompts before you ship a change.
Right, so DeepEval is the CI layer. What is Phoenix then?
Phoenix is the runtime observability layer. Think of it as Datadog for LLM behavior. It ingests OpenTelemetry traces from your production calls, and then it lets you ask questions like, what does my latency distribution look like across prompt versions? Which user sessions had the most hallucinations last week? It also runs online evals, where you sample a percentage of production traffic, run quality checks against those samples, and alert when the score degrades. That is the piece that catches silent quality drift.
And Promptfoo is the third thing.
Promptfoo is the offline evaluation and red teaming tool. It is what you use before you deploy. You define a YAML file of test cases. You run your prompt against all of them, potentially across 5 different models at once: GPT-4o, Claude 3.7, Gemini 2.5, Llama 4, whatever. You get a grid. Then you eyeball or score the grid. It is also the best tool on the market right now for jailbreak testing. It has a library of hundreds of known adversarial prompts and will just hammer your endpoint with them.
Okay, so if I am a team of 4 engineers shipping an AI feature tomorrow, what is the minimum viable setup? Do I need all 3? Is that too much?
The minimum that will actually save you is 2 tools. Promptfoo for pre-deploy, DeepEval plus PyTest in CI. You skip Phoenix on day 1. You can stand this up in an afternoon. Promptfoo goes in your YAML as roughly 20 test cases that cover your critical paths. DeepEval runs on every PR that touches the prompt. That gives you the 2 most important guardrails. Do not ship a prompt change that breaks known good cases, and do not ship a prompt change that introduces new jailbreak vectors. Phoenix is what you add in month 2 when you need the runtime drift story.
Can you give me a real story? A time when one of these tools caught something that a human review missed.
Yes, a team I was advising had a customer support chatbot. They upgraded from GPT-4 to GPT-4o on a Tuesday. Latency dropped. Cost dropped. Human spot checks said answers looked about the same. They did not run a Promptfoo regression. 2 weeks later, a compliance review flagged that the bot had started giving refund guidance that was more generous than the documented policy. Not wildly wrong, just wrong enough to cost them maybe $15,000 a month in excess refunds. A 10-minute Promptfoo run with their existing test cases would have caught it on Tuesday.
Okay, that is a painful story. Let me ask the hard one. Where does the ground truth come from? If I am building test cases for my prompt, who decides what the right answer is?
This is the question that breaks most teams. There are 3 patterns. Pattern 1, write them by hand. You sit down with a product manager, you enumerate 50 scenarios, you write the expected answer. This is slow, but the test cases are gold. Pattern 2, LLM-as-judge. You use a frontier model to score whether your smaller model's answer matches a reference. This is cheap and it scales, but you have to calibrate the judge. Pattern 3, and this is underused, replay production traffic. You take last week's real conversations, and you rerun them against the new prompt. If the new prompt changes what it says more than 15% of the time on arbitrary production inputs, something is off.
Hold on, LLM-as-judge sounds a little circular. A model judging a model. How do you trust the judge?
You are right to be suspicious. The honest answer is you calibrate the judge against human labels on a small sample, maybe 100 examples, and you verify the judge agrees with humans at least 85% of the time on pairwise comparisons. If the judge is only 70% aligned with humans, its scores are not trustworthy. The other trick is you constrain what the judge is allowed to answer. You do not ask, is this a good response? You ask, does this response contain these 4 required elements, yes or no? Structured rubrics travel better than freeform scoring.
Let me push on a cultural thing. There is a benchmark obsession in the AI world right now. MMLU, GPQA, SWE Bench, all the leaderboards. How much should a production team care about what model tops MMLU this month?
Almost zero. Public benchmarks are useful for picking which model family to evaluate, but they are contaminated. Every model trained in the last 18 months has seen MMLU in its pre-training data in some form. The scores are inflated, and even if they were not contaminated, they are not your data. Your customer service queries, your internal code style, your legal jargon, none of that is on a leaderboard. The single best thing a team can do is build a private eval set of 300 examples drawn from their own production logs and score every model candidate against it. Public benchmarks tell you who to shortlist. Private evals tell you who to ship.
Let's get concrete. What does a CI pipeline look like for an LLM-backed service? What do you run on every PR?
My default loadout is 3 stages. Stage 1, on every PR, run DeepEval's fast assertions, should take under 2 minutes. Stage 2, on every PR that touches a prompt file or a retrieval config, run the Promptfoo regression suite, maybe 5 to 10 minutes. Stage 3, nightly on main, run the full red team pass. That is the overnight job that hammers your endpoint with every known jailbreak vector. If stage 3 fails, somebody gets paged in the morning, not at 3 a.m. Stage 1 and 2 block the merge. Stage 3 gates the next day's deploy.
And the cost? Running LLM evals is not free. Every test case is an API call. How do teams budget this?
The math that shocks people. If you have 50 test cases, 10 PRs a day, and you are evaluating against 3 models per run at roughly 1 cent per test case per model, you are looking at $15 a day, $450 a month. That is nothing compared to the cost of a silent regression. The real cost is the red team suite, which can be hundreds of prompts run against every model. Keep that as a nightly or weekly job, not per PR. And cache aggressively. Promptfoo has prompt caching built in, so identical test runs don't re-hit the API.
Which metrics actually matter? Everybody throws around BLEU, Rouge, BERT score. Are any of those useful anymore?
For modern generative tasks, mostly no. BLEU and Rouge are string overlap metrics from the machine translation era. They penalize a correct answer that is phrased differently from the reference. For RAG systems, the three metrics that actually earn their keep are faithfulness, answer relevance, and context precision. Faithfulness asks, is every claim in the answer supported by the retrieved context? Answer relevance asks, does the answer actually address the user's question? Context precision asks, did the retriever pull the right chunks? All three are LLM-as-judge metrics. Arize and DeepEval both ship them out of the box. If you are doing RAG and you are not tracking at least those three, you are flying blind.
What about agents? The whole field has moved from single-turn LLM calls to multi-step agent loops. Does any of this translate?
Agents are harder to evaluate, and it is where the field is least mature. The core problem is that you need to score both the final output and the trajectory that got there. Did the agent take 5 tool calls to answer a question that should have taken 2? Did it hallucinate a tool that does not exist? Did it get stuck in a loop? Phoenix and Langsmith are both leaning hard into this space right now. The pattern that is emerging is, you instrument every tool call with OpenTelemetry. You capture the full trace, including which tools were invoked and which were considered, and then you write assertions against the trajectory shape. A trace with 12 tool calls for a simple query is almost always a bug, even if the final answer looks correct.
One more trap I want you to name. What's the biggest mistake you see teams make when they finally adopt one of these tools?
The biggest trap is tuning the prompt until it passes the evals. Goodhart's law, when a measure becomes a target, it ceases to be a good measure. If you write 50 test cases and then rewrite your prompt until all 50 pass, you have overfit. You have a prompt that is perfect on those 50 cases and potentially worse on the 10,000 cases you didn't write. The discipline is, you hold back 20% of your test cases as a blind set. You never look at them while tuning. They are your honest signal. If your blind set degrades while your visible set improves, you are overfitting. Stop.
Quick tangent, how much of this stack can you run without a paid vendor? If somebody is bootstrapping and does not want to send their test cases to a third party, can they stay open source?
Yes, and this is underappreciated. The whole stack can be self-hosted. DeepEval is MIT licensed, runs locally, calls whatever LLM you pointed at, including a local Alama. Promptfoo is Apache 2, runs on your laptop or in your own CI, no vendor account needed. Phoenix is also Apache 2 and can be self-hosted as a Docker container. Even the LLM-as-judge can be a local model. You lose some judgment quality with, say, Llama 4.8 billion versus GPT-4, but for cost-constrained teams, it is absolutely viable. The evaluation layer of your stack can be fully on-prem while your production inference talks to a commercial API. That split is very reasonable.
One last thing before we wrap. Where does the human stay in the loop? Because at some point, somebody has to actually read what the model is saying.
The humans stay in 2 specific places, and you should be stingy everywhere else. Place 1, authoring the golden test cases. A product manager and a subject matter expert spending 2 hours writing 50 well-chosen examples is worth more than 10,000 LLM-judged examples. Place 2, the blind set review. Once a month, somebody sits down, pulls 100 production traces at random and reads them. Just reads them. Not to score, just to notice what the automated metrics are missing. That is the 1 hour that keeps your eval system honest. Everything else, the per PR checks, the nightly red team, the drift detection, that should be machines.
All right, Sam, give me the 3 takeaways. If someone listens to this on their commute and does nothing else this week, what are they doing?
1. Write 20 real test cases from your actual production traffic and put them in a Promptfoo YAML this week. Not synthetic cases, real ones. 2. Add a DeepEval factual consistency assertion to your CI for any PR that touches a prompt. It is a 10-line change. 3. Hold 20% of your eval set back as a blind reference. Never tune against it. If you do those 3 things, you are already in the top 10% of teams shipping LLMs to production. Everyone else is still running on vibes.
Love that. Listeners, you can find this episode on Spotify and on YouTube. Just search Bot Thoughts Podcast. If this conversation was useful, drop a comment on the YouTube episode with the one eval tool you wish more teams used. We read every comment. If you want to support the show, buy me coffee. com/AmtocSoft keeps the microphones on. Next week, Sam and I are going deep on retrieval augmented generation in 2026. Specifically, why most RAG systems still fail on long documents and what the frontier teams are doing about it. Sam, see you then.
See you next week, Alex. And thanks for listening, everyone. Ship safer prompts.